Tyler pulled into the driveway Saturday afternoon feeling exhausted from another brutal week at the marketing firm where he worked as an executive handling demanding clients and impossible deadlines. His girlfriend, Sarah, was packing a small bag in their bedroom when he walked in, and her face brightened with that beautiful smile he had fallen in love with 3 years ago in college. "Babe, I am heading to the Riverside Spa for some self-care today," she announced cheerfully while zipping up her bag, "and I really need this after the crazy week I have had." Tyler nodded and walked over to kiss her forehead because he understood how hard she had been working at the design studio lately. "You deserve it, honey, and take all the time you need to relax and recharge." Sarah, smiling, hugged him tightly before grabbing her keys and heading out the door with a promise to be back late that night. Tyler spent his afternoon responding to work emails and watching basketball on television, while occasionally checking his phone for messages from Sarah. Around 8 that evening, while scrolling through social media, a notification popped up from his friend Marcus with a video attachment and a message that made his stomach drop. "Dude, is this Sarah at the spa right now?" Tyler clicked the video and watched footage of a luxurious pool area where Sarah was laughing and splashing in the water wearing a red bikini he had never seen before. But what made his heart stop was the tall, muscular man beside her, with his arm draped intimately around her shoulders and their faces inches apart as they whispered and smiled at each other. Tyler, shocked, replayed the video 3 times, and each viewing made the betrayal more undeniable and more painful. His hands trembled as he typed a message to Sarah demanding to know who the man was and why she had lied about going alone. 15 agonizing minutes passed before her response came through, claiming it was just an old college friend named Evan and that Tyler was overreacting to an innocent coincidence. But the video told a different story, and Tyler called her repeatedly, only to be sent to voicemail each time. He spent the entire night pacing their apartment and analyzing every recent interaction, wondering what other signs he had missed and whether their entire relationship had been built on lies. What we learn: blind trust without awareness can leave us vulnerable to betrayal, and sometimes our desire to believe the best in someone prevents us from seeing red flags that are right in front of us. Sarah came home late Sunday morning looking pale and nervous as Tyler sat at the kitchen table with his phone displaying the paused video of her and Evan. "We need to talk," he said coldly without looking up. Sarah, anxious, sat across from him and began explaining that Evan had reached out on social media a few weeks earlier, and they had been chatting about old times. "When I mentioned going to the spa, he said he would be there too, and I was curious to see him again, and I did not think it would matter." Tyler, furious, slammed his hand on the table, making her jump. "So you planned this, and you lied to me about a self-care day when really you were meeting up with a guy from your past, and how am I supposed to trust anything you say now?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she admitted that she and Evan had dated briefly in college, and their relationship ended abruptly when he moved away for work. "We never had closure, Tyler, and I always wondered what might have been if things were different, and seeing him was supposed to help me move on from those questions." Tyler felt like he had been stabbed in the chest, because this was not about an innocent friendship. This was about Sarah harboring feelings for another man. "You have been thinking about him while we have been planning our future together, and while I have been completely committed to you." Sarah reached across the table, but Tyler pulled away, refusing her touch. "I love you, Tyler, and I want to be with you, and nothing physical happened with Evan. We just talked and spent time together." Tyler, hurt, stared at her with eyes full of pain and disappointment. "You were wrapped around him in that pool, Sarah, and the emotional betrayal is just as devastating as a physical one, and you chose to lie to me and sneak around behind my back." The following days were torture as Tyler moved into the spare bedroom, needing space to process the betrayal, while Sarah spiraled into guilt and confusion. Tyler confided in Marcus, who advised him to decide whether he could truly forgive and rebuild trust, or if the relationship was broken beyond repair. Meanwhile, Sarah called her sister, Emma, who told her bluntly that she needed to figure out what she really wanted. If you have feelings for Evan, then let Tyler go. And if Tyler is who you want, then cut Evan out completely and prove you deserve another chance. Sarah admitted through sobs that she had been scared of commitment and afraid of settling down before experiencing everything life had to offer. Emma's response was harsh but necessary. Real love is not constant excitement and fireworks. It is about choosing someone every day and building something meaningful. And if you cannot do that for Tyler, then set him free so he can find someone who will. What we learn? Small lies and hidden conversations can snowball into major betrayals, and when we rationalize questionable behavior by telling ourselves it is harmless, we are avoiding accountability for actions we know are wrong. Part 3. 2 weeks passed with Tyler and Sarah living like strangers in their own apartment, and the tension was suffocating as they avoided eye contact and spoke only when necessary. Tyler threw himself into work, staying late at the office to avoid coming home, while Sarah spent her evenings alone, replaying her mistakes and crying into her pillow. One evening, Tyler came home early and found Sarah sitting on the couch, staring at her phone with tears streaming down her face. "I blocked Evan on everything," she said quietly, without looking up, "and I told him I made a terrible mistake and that I choose you and that I never want to speak to him again." Tyler, unmoved, sat in the chair across from her, maintaining distance. "That is what you should have done from the beginning, Sarah, and I do not know if that is enough to fix what you broke." Sarah looked up at him with desperate eyes. "What can I do, Tyler? Tell me what I need to do to make this right, and I will do anything to earn your trust back." Tyler leaned forward, and his voice was heavy with exhaustion and pain. "I do not know if you can, Sarah. Every time I look at you, I see you in that pool with him, and I hear your lies about going alone, and I wonder what else you have hidden from me." Sarah, sobbing, fell to her knees in front of him. "There is nothing else, I swear. I was stupid and selfish and scared, and I took for granted the most important person in my life, and I am so sorry, Tyler." Tyler felt his resolve wavering as he watched the woman he loved fall apart, but the betrayal still burned fresh in his chest. Sarah stood up and walked to the window where she had watched Tyler leave for work countless mornings and come home countless evenings to build their life together. "My sister told me something that really hit home," she said softly. "She said that real love is not about excitement and fireworks. It's about choosing someone every day, even when things get hard or scary." Tyler remained silent as Sarah continued. "I got caught up in the fantasy of what could have been with Evan instead of appreciating what I already had with you, and I let fear of commitment make me sabotage the best thing in my life." She turned to face him with raw honesty in her eyes. "I do not have all the answers, Tyler. I cannot promise I will never be scared again, but I can promise that if you give me another chance, I will choose you every single day, and I will be completely transparent and honest, no matter how uncomfortable it is." Tyler, conflicted, stood and walked past her to the bedroom, where he grabbed a duffel bag and started packing clothes. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked, panicking as she followed him. "I'm going to stay with Marcus for a while, because I need real space and time to figure out if I can ever trust you again, and if we have any chance of surviving this." Sarah watched helplessly as Tyler packed his belongings, and her heart breaking with each item he placed in the bag. "I love you, Tyler," she whispered as he headed toward the door. Tyler paused with his hand on the doorknob and looked back at her one last time. "I love you too, Sarah, and that is what makes this so hard. Love is not always enough when trust is gone." What we learn: fear of commitment and the illusion that something better exists elsewhere can cause us to destroy stable, loving relationships. And the grass is not greener on the other side, but rather where we choose to water it.
3 weeks passed, and Tyler stayed with Marcus, trying to rebuild his sense of self after the betrayal that had shattered his world. He threw himself into work projects and started going to the gym every morning before dawn, pushing his body until the physical pain drowned out the emotional agony. Marcus watched his friend struggle and finally sat him down one Saturday morning over coffee. "Brother, you cannot run from this forever, and you need to decide if you are going to forgive her and work through it, or walk away completely and move on with your life." Tyler, exhausted, rubbed his face with both hands. "How do I forgive someone who looked me in the eye and lied, Marcus? And how do I trust her again when she proved she is capable of such deception?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, considering his words carefully. "People make mistakes, Tyler, and sometimes good people do really stupid things when they are scared or confused. And the question is not whether she messed up, because she obviously did, and the question is whether you believe she is genuinely sorry and willing to change." Tyler thought about all the messages Sarah had sent over the past weeks, apologizing and explaining and begging for another chance. She says she has started therapy to work through her commitment issues, and she sent me her session notes to prove she is serious about change. Marcus raised his eyebrows, impressed. "That is a pretty big step, man, and therapy is not easy, and if she is willing to do that work, then maybe she really does want to fix things." Meanwhile, Sarah was indeed going to therapy twice a week, working with Dr. Chen to understand why she had sabotaged her relationship with Tyler. In one particularly difficult session, Dr. Chen asked her to explore her deepest fears about commitment and marriage. "I think I was afraid of becoming my mother," Sarah admitted, crying, "and my parents got married young, and my mom gave up all her dreams to support my dad's career, and she always seemed so unhappy and so trapped." Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "So you associated commitment with losing yourself and losing your identity and your freedom." Sarah wiped her tears and nodded. "When Tyler started talking about marriage and kids, I panicked because I thought that was the beginning of the end of who I am as an individual person." Dr. Chen leaned forward with compassionate eyes. "But Sarah, you are not your mother, and Tyler is not your father, and you have the power to create a partnership that looks however you want it to look, and commitment does not mean sacrifice." That session was a turning point for Sarah, as she realized she had been projecting her mother's experience onto her own life and sabotaging her happiness based on fears that weren't even her own. She wrote Tyler a long letter, explaining everything she had learned in therapy and expressing how deeply she understood the pain she had caused. Tyler received the letter at work and read it 3 times in his office, with the door closed and his heart aching with every word. Sarah's vulnerability and self-awareness came through clearly, and for the first time since the betrayal, Tyler felt a glimmer of hope that maybe they could survive this. He called her that evening, and his voice was cautious but not cold. "I read your letter, Sarah, and I appreciate you being so honest about what was going on in your head." Sarah, hopeful, felt her heart race at the sound of his voice after weeks of painful silence. "Tyler, I know I don't deserve another chance, but if you're willing, I would like to try to rebuild what we had and to show you every day that you made the right choice." Tyler was quiet for a long moment before responding. "I'm not ready to move back home yet, but maybe we could meet for coffee this weekend and talk face to face." Sarah excitedly agreed immediately, and they made plans to meet at their favorite coffee shop, where they had gone on their first date 3 years earlier. What we learn: understanding the root causes of our destructive behavior is essential for genuine change, and often our worst decisions come from unexamined fears and traumas that we unconsciously project onto present situations.
Saturday morning, Tyler arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early and his palms sweating as he waited for Sarah to arrive. She walked in looking nervous and hopeful, wearing the blue sweater he had given her last Christmas and her hair pulled back the way he always loved. They ordered their usual drinks and sat at a corner table, where the morning sunlight streamed through the windows, creating patterns on the worn wooden surface. Tyler spoke first after a long, awkward silence. "I have been doing a lot of thinking, Sarah, and about us, and about whether I can move past what happened." Sarah, anxious, gripped her coffee cup tightly, waiting for him to continue. "What you did hurt me more than anything I have ever experienced. And the lying and the betrayal, and the fact that you were thinking about someone else while planning a future with me." Sarah looked down at her cup, sad, unable to meet his eyes. "But I also realize that relationships are complicated, and people are complicated, and sometimes we hurt the people we love, not because we do not care, but because we are dealing with our own pain and fear." Sarah looked up, surprised by his words. "I'm not saying I forgive you completely," Tyler continued, "and because trust takes time to rebuild, but I am willing to try if you are truly committed to doing the work." Sarah, crying, reached across the table, and this time Tyler did not pull away when she took his hand. "I am committed, Tyler, and I promise you with everything I have that I will spend every day proving I deserve your trust. And I have cut Evan completely out of my life, and I am in therapy working through my issues, and I will be completely transparent with you about everything." Tyler squeezed her hand gently. "We need to set some ground rules moving forward. Complete honesty about everything, no matter how small, access to each other's phones and social media, and couples counseling together in addition to your individual therapy." Sarah nodded eagerly, agreeing to everything. "Whatever it takes, Tyler, I will do whatever it takes." They spent the next 2 hours talking through everything that had happened, and Sarah explained in detail her therapy revelations about her mother and her fears of losing herself in marriage. Tyler shared how the betrayal had made him question his own judgment and wonder if he had been blind to problems in their relationship. "We were not perfect before this happened," Tyler admitted, "and maybe we both got too comfortable and stopped really communicating about the hard stuff." Sarah agreed and acknowledged that she had been pulling away emotionally for months, but had not known how to express her fears without hurting Tyler. Over the following months, Tyler and Sarah attended couples counseling every week with Dr. Martinez, who helped them develop better communication skills and rebuild trust. Progress was slow and painful, with setbacks along the way when Tyler would see something that reminded him of the betrayal and the hurt would come flooding back. But Sarah remained patient and consistent, showing up every day to prove her commitment and being completely transparent even when it was uncomfortable. 6 months after the betrayal, Tyler moved back into their apartment, but they agreed to hold off on engagement talks until they both felt the relationship was on solid ground. One evening, while cooking dinner together, Sarah turned to Tyler with tears in her eyes. "I know I don't say this enough, but thank you for giving me another chance when I didn't deserve it. And thank you for doing the hard work with me instead of just walking away." Tyler, thoughtful, set down the knife he was using to chop vegetables and pulled Sarah into his arms. "I gave you another chance because I believe people can change and grow from their mistakes, and because despite everything, I still love you, and I still see a future with us." Sarah held him tightly, knowing how lucky she was that Tyler had chosen forgiveness over bitterness. A year after the incident, Tyler and Sarah hosted a dinner party for Marcus and Emma, who had both supported them through the darkest time in their relationship. As they all sat around the table, laughing and sharing stories, Sarah felt overwhelmed with gratitude for the second chance she had been given. Later that night, after their guests had left, Tyler found Sarah standing on their balcony, looking up at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts?" he said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. Sarah leaned back against him. "I was just thinking about how different things could have been if you had not been willing to forgive me, and how close I came to losing everything that matters." Tyler kissed the top of her head. We both learned something valuable through all this. I learned that love sometimes means taking risks and being vulnerable again after being hurt. And you learned that running from commitment only creates more problems. Sarah turned in his arms to face him. I learned that the grass is not greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. And I'm committed to watering our garden every single day for the rest of my life. They stood together in the moonlight, two imperfect people who had chosen to fight for their relationship instead of giving up when things got hard. What we learn: relationships can survive betrayal if both people are willing to do the painful work of rebuilding trust. Healing requires complete honesty, vulnerability, and a genuine commitment to change. While forgiveness is a gift we give, not because someone deserves it, but because we choose love over bitterness and understand that everyone makes mistakes and everyone deserves a chance at redemption when they truly work to become better.